There continues to be innovation, solutions, shortages in our economy. Some are going to be very difficult to bring to market. The whole data center push now is real, and it's going to suck up a lot of money. And if artificial intelligence continues to be a factor in our lives, and I believe it will be, I think there will be great opportunities to take the knowledge and the relationships that we both developed and use those to the benefit of the clients that need that unartificial intelligent response analysis.
All right. So, Peter, you got the experience in a little countdown on Riverside, but here we are, tools, talents, and techniques. And this episode has been a long time coming. I'm very happy to welcome to the show Mr. Peter Quinn. I've known Peter for, I don't know, I want to say 7 years now or something like that, and
Yeah.
through commercial real estate, and just his experience in brokerage and just seeing all the ebbs and flows of the industries. This has been a conversation that I've been looking forward to. So, Mr. Peter Quinn, welcome to the show.
Dustin, thank you very much. Thank you for having me. This is an honor and a pleasure to be here.
All right. So I know I gave a little bit of an intro, but could you give a thumbnail of who you are and what it is that you do?
Sure, I'd love to do that. Sort of a San Diego guy. Went to college here at San Diego State, graduated and was hired by IBM. Supposed to be hired here in San Diego, but they didn't have any openings. So I got hired in Orange County, which was fantastic because it was a much more competitive environment to learn business practices. And working for IBM was like going to graduate school. I mean, it was fantastic. And after 3 years, all of my really good buddies in the IBM Xerox background environment, great sales training, they were all leaving to go into commercial real estate. And honest to God, I knew how to spell commercial real estate, but that was about as much as I knew about it. And I made the decision that I was going to interview with as many companies as I could, but I really only wanted to get hired by what was called then Coldwell Banker Commercial. It's now called CBRE. I had several friends over there, and it just looked like the kind of a platform that would allow me to meet my goals and objectives. And it did. I mean, it was fantastic. Spent 5 years at the Newport Beach office of CB, which was at the time the highest earnings per producer of any CB office in the country. The environment was extraordinarily tough. I mean, my best competitors were in the cube next to me, and, we weren't stealing from each other, but, you were careful about what you said out loud because we were all going after a lot of the same things. But it was a great environment. I got recruited away to come back to San Diego and become a development partner with a company that had spun off from National Trammell Crow Company. And that was, again, an extraordinary learning opportunity. I thought I knew a lot about commercial real estate when I left brokerage to go into development. My God. I mean, I knew nothing.
Yeah.
You and I have talked a lot about different aspects of the real estate business, and I've seen you come in and out of opportunities as you saw ways to improve your knowledge level. And it's amazing what you can learn from people who have experience if you're willing to pay attention. And I
Yeah.
know that's an attribute that you embrace.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I try to learn. That's a big part of this podcast too. I get to interview people that everybody sees the world through their own lens and their own experience. And so there's a lot to be gleaned off of what other people have seen and done. So thank you. I appreciate that. And yeah, sometimes I'm like, I don't know what's behind that curtain, but I'm going to find out and I'm going to learn as much as I can. And hopefully that benefits me and those around me as well. But before we go further into that, I want to talk about, the beginning, because you mentioned in school, and then you went to IBM. Was business something that you majored in or something that you wanted to do?
Yeah, it's funny. I started out in accounting and I was good at accounting. It was just so incredibly boring. And San Diego State had and still has an amazing business school. And flipped to finance, and it was amazing to me how much I used those tools at IBM. And then it was even more analytical when I got into the commercial brokerage and development business because it's all about the numbers.
Mhm.
There's only so much manipulation that you could make to a computer or a big copier product. I mean, they set the pricing in White Plains, New York, and go get them. Go
Yeah.
sell. And I think you see it as well. Walking into the office in a commercial brokerage environment or in my development company, I really don't have any idea what I'm going to do. There are three things that I'm going to get done today, but then there's going to be 10 other things that I hadn't anticipated. And it makes it so fun. I mean, it's just like, my God, I can't wait to get in to see what's going to happen today. So I think that attribute to be able to learn from others, share with others. And there are a number of young men and women that I've talked to over the years about what they want to do when they get out of college or how they want to pivot to their next career. I'm learning stuff from those people. I mean, they're teaching me different ways in which I can look at the world and be a better communicator or a better analyst or just a resource.
Yeah.
And again, I share that, I hope, with you because I see what you do out there, and it just builds confidence in people when you're able to be that good ear, listen
Yeah.
more than talk.
Yeah. Well, also it's very refreshing. I think it's great for people to hear that you've been in this business 40 years, right? I don't want to undersell it, right? Or oversell it, but
You're right.
okay, that's almost half a century in this business. And to hear you say, "I'm still learning, I'm still listening, I'm still growing," that is a trait, a quality that I think we'd all need to have in our life. So that's great to hear.
Yeah, I mean, you miss so much if you're not paying attention and if you're not out seeking a different way of doing things. And as we get deeper into this broadcast, I know we'll both be sharing some things that we're seeing that are going to dramatically impact the way in which we communicate and continue to be problem solvers for our clients.
Yeah. Okay. I want to make sure because you are a fountain of knowledge from your experience and your journey. Let's go back to IBM real quick though, because you're accounting, finance. Okay. You go into IBM and it's sales, and it's, especially when I know from Xerox and what I know of IBM, and I worked at a company called Cintas, which has its own sales training.
Yeah.
And so it's not easy. So what was that like, just going into that and being like, "Oh, okay, was it, I like this. This is hard, but I like it, and this is for me." What
Well,
was that?
I was naive enough to think that I was going to be chairman of the board in, 25 years after I started there right out of college. But I went to IBM because I knew I would get good training and I knew that I wanted and needed that. And so the first, 6 or 9 months, you're training, 24/7. It's just all about understanding the product. It's understanding the ethos at IBM, white shirts, polished shoes, no cocktails at lunch. You could get your client a cocktail, but we couldn't do a cocktail. And I had a territory in Orange County, and I literally walked every block. I went into every storefront, and I did it over and over and over again. I would see some people 10 times before they finally go, okay, all right, I'll buy that. And so I mean, that's a great experience for anybody. Getting 25 no's before you get a yes or a maybe, and being able to walk out with a smile on your face. If you do it enough, you will be successful. But it's hard. It's not for everybody, that's for sure. But that set the table for uh, being a willing sponge in the commercial real estate brokerage environment because there's so got to use all those skills, but you're now applying them in a much different and creative way. And as you can imagine, 40 years ago, we did not have much technology. So it's a way different experience than what we're able to corral these days. But, I would come back into the office after a day of driving industrial marketplaces, which is what I focused on in Orange County. And I would give the tape to the pool secretary, and she would look at me and her eyes would roll and go, "Oh my God, another tape." and she would tape all of the, northeast corner of Orange and Catella. And, I just did that. Every vacant piece of land I cataloged for the entire county that I could find. I'm sure I missed a lot of things, and I just worked it, called and met and, made
The
those presentations and
the
got busy.
the feeling that I have from you saying that is a little bit a mix of like PTSD and a joy because
Right.
I've been through, I mean, that same exact experience, but it's like those cold calls and doing all that. But like you're right, you get good at it, not necessarily numb to it, but it just becomes part of how you are. So that's cool that to hear you talk about that origin story. Wow, it's weird.
Yeah. I
Pretty
mean,
cool.
and the whole, cold calling thing, when you go from fixed territory, I mean, nobody could sell in my territory. I was selling against Xerox and Burroughs and, folks like that. But in commercial real estate, I mean, there's no territory. There's just you getting out and grinding it. And and you have to be really adept at making the contact, keeping a record, following back up. And that was all done manually when I first started.
Yeah.
And if you did that, you're going to make a lot of money and have fun doing it. If you don't do that, now we've got CRMs and all kinds of reminders that can keep us on track, which of course I'm fully embracing all of that help because it's necessary to compete in today's environment.
Yeah. So having the fundamentals though, like learning the hard way and doing all those things. I was just at a conference where they were talking about artificial intelligence and all these things and people about getting jobs and like where all this is going, but the fundamentals still remain. Like the the persistence, the ability to understand what you're talking about and how you really embrace what it is you're trying to learn and how you document all those things. Like the tools just kind of accelerate that in a way and speed it up, but the fact that people you have to get in and do the work to actually understand it is key. It's crucial.
Well, and as you know, when you get comfortable doing that, it lowers the barrier with your customer. They start to think and believe that, I'm really here just to advise you. I'm not selling anything. I'm going to listen to what it is you think you need to grow your business, expand your production, reach new markets. And I'm going to take that back with me. Often I'll share that with my colleagues. I met with so and so today. They're in this particular vertical business, and I see some real opportunities to expand there. Let's go dive not only after this client, but let's go after this sector and see if we can't go make a difference. And that's been really powerful as well.
So one of the things in commercial real estate, and most of the folks that are going to listen to this and watch this, a lot of them are in commercial real estate. And you mentioned being an industrial. Like, how was that something that you were like, okay, I'm going to do this because this is the opportunity? Were there other product types that you were interested in? Like, what was your journey as far as figuring out which lane of brokerage you wanted to be in and stay in?
Yeah, let's call it 1983, a little more than 40 years. Uh, Development environment in Orange County was as dynamic a market as you could possibly see. Buildings that were 10 years old, built in the Irvine Industrial Complex, which included the cities of Santa Ana, Tustin, Irvine. I mean, they were tearing down 10-year-old buildings and replacing industrial buildings and replacing them with higher bay manufacturing, what was going to become an emerging sector, R&D and office. And there was a ton of land still available. So that to me looked like the low-hanging fruit. Understand who the owners of those properties were. And some were, the professional organizations like the Irvine Company or the Mission Viejo Company. But there were a lot of guys that came out of the cubes 5 years before I got there who were, teaming up with institutional investors like Copley, the development arm of New England Life Insurance. And they were making a lot of money and making a lot of headway. All probably believed that this will never end. Of course, 1989 showed up and it ended. It pretty pretty dramatically. By then, I was uh, a partner with this company called McLaughlin Investment, of a Trammell Crow spinoff, and that was a tough time. I literally had to start over in '90, form my own company to become an advisor to corporations. So I was really back in my brokerage mentality. I'm looking for people that have a problem. I'm just trying to help them solve it. And then we did some syndications. Two of my McLaughlin partners joined me, did third party management, and being constantly in the space, we were able to develop a really good reputation and survived that very difficult period in commercial real estate from '89 to '95. Stay alive to '95 was what we came into the office every day
Yeah.
saying.
So you mentioned something else about the relationships that you build with people over time. I would love to, especially when you talked about being an advisor and listening to people and figuring out what they're really trying to accomplish. And when you do that, you definitely get to a different level of a relationship with someone. Tell me about the through line through your career and what that means. Because when you're an advisor to somebody, maybe they have a need now and then they find their space or they find their property. They probably don't need you right away. Maybe they do want to buy another property. Like how does that weave into your life story?
It is a factor. You only control what you control. And if I have a relationship with a company and I don't find the solution for whatever reason and somebody else does, well, good on them. The clients need support from wherever they can get it. I don't often lose clients, but it happens. Sometimes I compete for business. I've done business in San Diego in particular with a really successful nonprofit. And I've been doing all their business in North County for the last 10 years. I've done like 5 transactions. And each transaction has forced me to go beyond what at the time I thought was comfortable. It's like, oh my God, they're asking for so much. And this is gonna be so hard. This owner is gonna be so angry with me. And every time that they push me, we were able to combine, get the best deal in the marketplace. I mean, by a margin. I leased some 60,000 feet in North County, San Diego at, I think it was 81 cents a square foot in a market that was a buck and a quarter. I mean, it
Hmm.
was amazing. It was a sublease, so we got a little lucky, but you hang around the rim, you get lucky once in a while.
That's right. You gotta be there. The big part of it is showing up and being present. That's right.
But
And like you said, paying attention. Paying
paying
attention.
attention, I'm spending a lot of time the last couple of years on identifying owners of real estate that has reached its functional obsolescence. So it's no longer a viable farm. It's no longer a viable 30-year-old industrial building. It's no longer a 7-acre family estate in coastal Encinitas where the families that established that, the people that established that are no longer here. And they left 3 kids, hopefully with a well planned out estate so that that property can be sold and proceeds distributed. So I spend a lot of time trying to understand what people have done and what they haven't done. And you and I are part of a group called Provisors, which I think we pride ourselves in being, open to bringing as many resources into a conversation to make sure the client's being well served. So we're doing that. Our team is identifying these baby boomers. Hi, Mr. and Mrs. Sutton. It's really great to meet you again. Uh, and we've talked about your property. I just want to make sure that some of the pieces that you're going to need to allow me to transact are in place or updated. So, what's the condition of your trust? Or you don't have a trust? Well, I have a couple of people I'd like you to talk to. You got your will done. When was the last time you updated it? Okay, so we need to get that done. You had a farming operation here. I might suggest we come in and do a quick environmental assessment so that we make sure that we're not trying to dispose of something that may need to be cleaned up. And so once those pieces are in place, however many there are, then I can actually put a plan together to help them, unlock the equity that's in their property, mostly through sales, but often through development if they're willing to wait the amount of time that a development takes to mature. but it's mostly just disposing of the asset and making sure that the heirs have reasonable expectations and that we overperform. So that's been fun.
And you mentioned provisors and assembling that team that's around you. And I'll call it a team because there's one thing that when you look at things holistically, it's not just the real estate or the property. It's all those other things that you mentioned, the trust and, the environmental assessment. Who have you found are the best people to surround yourself as you're going out there in the field? Like who's the what are the types of people are do you have at your side when you're going out there? Or is it any more than just that than the trust attorney?
Covering, really covering all the bases. I mean, I have a handful of real estate attorneys, and my first counsel to either a tenant or a landowner or buyer, for that matter, who wants to transact is I know you have a great business attorney, Dustin, and I know you've got a great estate attorney, and we've talked about that before. But real estate is a animal into itself. You must have somebody that actually understands what the current law is, that they understand the document that we're going to be working with. I use the AIR document a lot for leasing and for sales. And an attorney who understands that documents can get their review done in an hour. Somebody that doesn't understand that document is going to bill the client 10 hours. Well, that's a waste of time and money. And so it's sometimes hard asking the client, please don't use your business attorney. Please. I know he's your cousin or your nephew or whatever, but don't do it. So there's that element. I have civil engineering crews that have been unbelievably beneficial to helping me understand what's possible. Who else? Property management firms are so important to the process. They often have that first relationship that we need support on. Then we happen to have property management internal here at Kidder Matthews. So I'm going to them for, well, who are you using for janitorial? What does it cost to clean an office building per square foot per month these days? If it's a class A facility versus a class C facility. Who is the go-to environmental engineering firm for these kinds of projects? Because farmland and industrial properties are going to be far different than a legacy office building or a retail center. They're not likely going to have the kinds of problems, unless, of course, you have a dry cleaner in your
Yeah.
project. That was a problem. I don't think it's much of a problem these days. So yeah, it's I mean, my Rolodex, to use an old term, is chock full of folks that I know can help me, and they will come when I ask, as they know I will for them. So that's a huge benefit. And provisors contain so many of those pieces that it just makes it a more powerful advocate and ally for me, and as I hope I am to them.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. And then going back to the relationship piece of it, there are so many when you get into the nitty-gritty, when you start to peel back of anything, there's so much nuance. There's so many things. And so even like you said, for commercial real estate, there's class A, there's class B, class C, there's all these things. And then there's, office versus industrial. And everything has its own, special spice to it. And there's certain things that you need to know, and there are different rates and different, vendors that need to be involved. One thing that I learned a lot from provisors and being and watching how the attorneys operate, because to your point, people say, "Oh, I know somebody who's an attorney." It's like, family law is different than criminal law versus, business law versus real estate law. There's so many different shades of it. And to see people like, "Oh yeah, I'm just going to go to this attorney." The way the provisors really showed me and the attorneys is that the best referrals are from people that are in your same industry, but they just specialize in that thing. And I was
Yeah.
like, that's amazing. And they're not just clamoring over whatever deal. It's like, what deal makes sense? Like what opportunity, what client, what person that I can help makes the best sense. And everybody is really giving each other pitches to hit. It's like, oh no, this is right across my plate. Send it to me. If this go right across his plate, send it to him. It's been fantastic to see. And it's a win-win-win. Like everybody wins. The client wins, the owners, business owners win, the reps, everybody wins. It's pretty special.
Yeah, I've had certain attorneys because Provisors is an attorney-rich environment. Attorneys that I brought a deal to, and they've said, I'm just not going to be the right fit. I understand what it is they want to do, but you really should call so and so. I mean, this is exactly what they do. It could be, a boundary adjustment. So we know the attorney that does boundary adjustments, and it's people are not afraid to walk away from business if they really feel that there's a better solution, in their sphere of influence.
Yeah. It goes a long way with, especially with clients that come to you and you say, well, yeah, I could do this, but the better person, and it builds trust too. Cause they go, wow, you're not just after a buck. You're actually here at, like you initially said, to be an advisor to help get that person to the solution. So, and then over the years, as you're meeting more and more interesting situations where you're like, I've never seen this before. I'll find out. And then you
Right.
learn, and then you find somebody else that's in your Rolodex now, and you develop that relationship. It's pretty cool. I like it.
If the
Yeah.
most valuable three words are, I don't know, and
Yeah.
I'll find out.
And I'll find out. That's right. That's right.
Because we all know people that, have experience in some of the weird, odd things that we come across. So, yeah, I
Yeah.
agree.
Well, so you also mentioned the tools that you use, that the year and the show being tools, talents, and techniques. Let's talk about the tools. Because over the years, when you first started, probably Thomas Brother guides,
Absolutely.
blast
Every
from the
year
past.
you buy a new Thomas Further guide.
Yeah. So flash forward a few decades. So what are the things now that you're using in your toolkit, whether it's your CRM and like doing your research? Like what are the things that you use?
Well, I use organizations, title companies, in places that are warehousers of critical data. And I am using artificial intelligence every day now, very carefully. I don't publish stuff with AI. I just do research and then go back and check and make sure that what answers it gave me are valid and supportable and have some sort of a reference point that you can point back to. But simple tools, like I have a tool on my phone. It's not a Google Earth. It just allows you to put in an address, and then it will go right to that address with an aerial photograph, give you all the ownership information on your phone, very readable. If you are physically on the property and you drive the perimeter, it will actually show you driving the perimeter in real time so that you can say, oh yeah, that's exactly where that property line is. And I got that from a client. He just said, "Have you seen this before?" I go, "No."
What's the name of the app?
On point,
On
and I'll
point.
send
Okay.
you a link to it.
Thank you.
It's really cool.
All right. Well, I'll share with the audience too. I'll put it in the show notes. Unofficial. They're not a sponsor of the show, but maybe, we'll see.
CRM is very important. Integrating with the team, getting everybody on board on that. That's always a difficult process to go through unless you parachute into an organization like yours. I suspect that Meiser has a CRM that they would like everybody to use, and it allows people to communicate in between divisions. That's important stuff because you never know when you want to take a couple of days off. You need a little coverage, and having people that have access to that kind of data is very important. And then I track every single deal that I have any possibility of bringing across the finish line. Everything starts out at 1%. At the end of the year, you got to true up. What do we actually get across the line, and what did we? But it keeps me on task. Okay, where do I need to spend time? These four deals are at 25%. There's a chance to get them over the line this year if we focus our time and attention. Some things you can't control. I do a lot of land projects, and those are 24 to 32-month escrows. So they're going to have a timeline of their own that you can't force. But yeah, and I read a ton. I read all day, every day. I'm reading.
I was gonna bring that up because I remember there the first time. No, it wasn't the first time, but a few years ago, we were meeting. I think we were having lunch. Actually, we're having Thai food for lunch. I
Yep.
remember, and you were talking about what you read in the paper, and then you mentioned something else that you read. Then later, you mentioned something else that you read. I was like, That's a lot. Like, where you are, tell me about that process. Like, when did that start? Is it like the paper every morning? Are there specific papers that you read? Where's the data coming from that you're ingesting?
Today, it's actually a lot different than it was then. So then I was reading the local paper just to make sure I was staying in tune with what's going on locally, and I read the sports. And then I read the Wall Street Journal. I try to read that every day, but sometimes I've got to catch up. I get 3 days in on a Saturday. And then I follow a number of digital broadcasts. Globe Street is a great resource for people in the real estate industry. The daily transcript was a great resource. I haven't really followed their emerging new ownership, see if that's as powerful as it used to be. And then I have a digital support team that helps me identify subject matter that is, if not directly in on the periphery of things that I'm concentrating my business on. And they send me a couple of articles every day, and they they uh, give me a suggested paragraph to lead with, and then a link to the article. So I'll click on the article, read that, go to the summary, make it the adjustments I need, send it back. They send it out to LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, and it, along with continuing to update my own profile, keeps my Google score up enough that if people who are watching this, if they go on to Google and type in commercial real estate San Diego, I will certainly be in the top five. I'll probably be the top one. And the business that comes in or the leads that come in off that, most of the time they're really not something I can do, but I can be of service to that person. I don't do any commercial real estate. I can't help you with that condo. And no residential real estate. I
Mhm.
can't help you with that condo. Or that's retail. And let me introduce you to one of my partners. And it's been super helpful in terms of, again, getting people to talk about what I'm doing
Mhm.
and getting people comfortable. I mean, the provisor network's been fantastic. I've got a dozen people that follow all my posts, and then, they're thinking about me when something comes up around land. I mean, I hope that's what people cling on to, because that's what I love to work on. So yeah,
Well, it's mental real estate, right? I mean, you're working in the physical real estate, you got your digital online real estate, and then you're staying in people's mental real estate. So yeah, man, that's all the way
that's right.
around.
Exactly. That's exactly right. It's a great way to put it.
Yeah. Man, so okay, so you mentioned land, right? And in California, there's not that, I mean, well, there's plenty of land in California, but is that really why you're focusing on the properties that are near being obsolete? That's
Yes. Yeah. It used to be when I was with CB up in Newport, it was vacant lots in master plan industrial communities, right? So pretty easy. You just go get a brochure at the Irvine Company office, and here's what I have to sell. Now I see vacant land every place. And former partners of mine, uh, we left the development company, unbelievably smart guys, but they just said to me, there's no future in this development stuff. There's not enough greenfield opportunities, greenfield meaning undeveloped sites. And I said, I think it's different. You just got to look at it differently. And it's a little bit harder to look at a building that has outlived its useful life to understand what could possibly go there. But if you're paying attention, if you're reading a lot, you're going to go, well, that's going to be a 10-story apartment building in 5 years. I mean, it just is. That gas station no longer has a place on this corner. And so I stay in touch with those ownerships. And occasionally I stumble onto a deal where I know a particular product type developer is very interested in marketplace. If I've been paying attention, then I can typically find a deal or two that will match that investor developer's appetite.
so over the years, there's been a lot of valleys and peaks, and the Great Recession. You mentioned '89, 2007 to eight. Um,
2001.
2001, of all the things, was there ever a time where you were like, I want to do something else, or maybe I'll try or go to a different location that's not Southern California? Thought like this is the end of commercial real estate, or I don't want to do this anymore? Or were you just always all in?
That's a great question, and it has a couple of different answers to it. So we in nine, as the market was imploding, we had developed an office building in Serena Mesa, and we were having a hard time filling it up. So we built out an executive suite operation, and we knew going into that that this was a loss leader. Executive suite operations don't survive. HQ, I mean, I think Regis has done a really good job, but I don't understand their model because I know how the model works. But we had a whole bunch of really interesting tenants in this executive suite, one of whom was a software developer. And we were always there till 7 o'clock at night. So he would, you know, stumble out of his little corner of the executive suite, come into our office and, you know, shoot the shit. And so he came in one day with a I didn't even know what it was, but it was a tablet. It was Steve Jobs' tablet. They called it Next. And Steve Jobs' idea was that this is going to be the new, utility information tracker. Meter Maid would use it to go, okay, we checked off Quinn's house, we checked off Sutton's house, or it might be used by property management companies. And we had a property management company, so we're always looking for ways of reducing our costs. And he built a great graphical user interface. It was really, really good, very easy to use, no customers. So we didn't invest in that deal. But he came back about a year later, or maybe not even that, and said, I have an idea of putting internet access kiosks in public places. And so would you guys be interested in just watching what I'm doing? And if it looks exciting enough, go raise some money for me. So he did it, and we built a model. And in retrospect, I was unfortunate enough to know the communications director for Hilton Hotels Worldwide. He was golf with my in-laws, and I talked about it to him. He goes, "Yeah, that sounds really cool. Let me see if I can't get you in a few of our hotels." We did a big demo up in Burbank, and they said, "Yeah, let's go." So we had to basically take their direction on where to go, which was a huge mistake because we needed to be like in Southern California. That was it.
Hmm.
But we were in Atlanta, New York, Dallas, Scottsdale, San Diego, LA, San Francisco, Seattle. I mean, we had 13 units out. Everyone had the same mechanics to it, but everyone looked different because it had to match the decor of the hotel. It was a mess. So that did not work.
Hmm.
And I'm going to try to make this as short a story as I can but it is kind of interesting. I'm sitting in my office. We have shut the company down, brought all of our equipment back from these hotels. It was successful in their environments. We just couldn't service it. And that brought up a footprint. And so 7:30 at night, phone rings. Guy goes, "Hi, is Peter Quinn there?" I go, "This is Peter Quinn." Guy goes, "Yeah, my name is Arnie Leap. I'm with a company called Computer Concepts out of New York, Long Island, actually. And I want to talk to you about your product, Infone." That was the name of our company, INFONE. And I said, and my eyes just rolled back in my head. I'm glad we didn't have FaceTime then. I said, you know, okay, what would you like to know? Well, I'd like to know if you'd be interested in licensing your software. And I said, look, there are 5 companies that are doing this in the United States. 4 of them are in your backyard. Like 3 of them, almost in Toronto. Go talk to, Blue Ridge. Go talk to, whatever the names of the firms were. He goes, well, I've actually been to all 4 of those headquarters and they don't have anything. I mean, they've got a, gerbil, on a wheel, making those things work when he took the top off of their device. And he goes, but I was down in Atlanta and I logged onto your device. I established an internet connection. I got an email address. It printed out a card for me and gave it to me. Then I got a receipt for, discount on coffee at the coffee shop in the Hilton Hotel. I go, oh. So now I'm going on. Now what do I do? I said, well, okay, would you like to come out? He goes, yeah, I would like to. I go, well, fantastic. When would you like to come? I'll see you at your office at 9 tomorrow morning. So he hasn't left New York yet. It's now 9 o'clock in San Diego. And he was at our office at 9 o'clock. And in 2 weeks, we signed a licensing agreement. Got them to pay us enough money to pay off all of our vendor debt. And I wound up joining them for 18 months in New York to launch a company called MallNet, which was taking basically everything we had done and putting it into this amazing piece of sculpture that David Rockwell is an architect in New York who
Mhm.
did Detroit uh, baseball stadium, that did Atlanta's baseball stadium, was the architect for Cirque du Soleil troops all over the world. This guy was freaking brilliant. And so we wound up, raising a bunch of money. Jack Welch was on our board of advisors.
Wow.
Jim Canavino, who was second in charge at IBM, was part of our board of advisors. A bunch of different characters, a bunch of wild characters. And it was very fun. Our target was the regional malls. I met every regional mall owner in the world. If they did not come to New York or Las Vegas for ICSC, I went to see them. And they just wanted too much.
Hmm.
So, yeah, you went inside my mall and that'll cost you $1 million. And then you put in all the money to put the machines in. And then this is 99, 2000. There was no Wi Fi. So, well, how am I going to get from the server room to these 12 three-sided, you know, beautifully architected, and well, we're going to have to jackhammer up the travertine. I'm telling, at that point, I told the guys, none of whom are real estate, fellas, this is not going to work. We cannot pay $1 million, jack up the travertine, make it look as pretty as it was. It's just not going to happen. And I wound up leaving the company in like May of 2000. And then we installed a completely operating system at a brand new mall in Nashville. It was the Opry Mills Center, and they did a fantastic job, but just wasn't scalable. We need
Yeah.
5 more years. Five
Yeah.
more years, we would have had Wi-Fi, and it would have been a huge success.
And during this time, because that's a lot to go on to go into this business and move to the other side of the country and do all those things, but you're also learning, I'm sure, like
My
through the
God, I
experience.
learned. I mean, it was basically the advertising business, which I had never been in. So we were meeting with, the biggest dogs in the kennel. Apollo was, making huge investments in advertising platforms. I mean, they're the ones that basically control all the huge billboards in Times Square. Blackstone was coming into the business, and we had a shot had we been 5 years later of being able to control a piece of that business. But it's hard,
Yeah.
hard. It was
Time, you
fun.
can't control time. Yeah, it's fun, you learn,
Yeah.
and then so okay, so with all the experience that you had in real estate, and then you had this opportunity and you go for it, and you're doing these things. When you came back to real estate, because did you go right back to real estate after that?
Actually, I came back and started a company called eBuilding Solutions. And eBuilding was providing internet access to commercial customers who could not get a DSL connection.
Hmm.
DSL was distributed by the whoever the local provider was, Cox, Pac Bell, AT&T, and T. And there were certain marketplaces, Sereno Valley, much of Torrey Pines, you couldn't get a decent internet connection. So we had operations in Northern California, Central California, LA, and San Diego. And then I would fly around to the major phone companies trying to understand where are you guys in this process? When are you going to put me out of business? Everybody, indicated that they just didn't have a solution for it. It wasn't anything they were spending any time on. We're trying to service the customers that we can get to. And these people that you're serving, we can't get to. So I did that for a couple of years, resigned from my real estate company, sold my partnership interest to my two partners, worked on this thing. And, we broke even, but I didn't take a paycheck for a couple of years. And it got sort of to the point where we couldn't scale, we couldn't acquire all of the technology we needed to actually grow in our marketplace because we were successful wherever we got in the door. Yeah, of course I could use an internet connection. Everybody needs one now. And it was at that time that a development company out of Orange County found me and asked me to come on and be their development partner here in San Diego. So I did that for 5 years until mid 2007, where our chairman said, I've seen this movie and this is not going to end well. So we're going to shut down San Diego, Arizona, Reno, and Northern California. And so we shut down those divisions. I was in charge of the San Diego division, and I went back into servicing my corporate clients.
Hmm.
So it was a pretty easy pivot,
Mm.
but it was a pretty hard time. Not a
Yeah.
lot of activity from '08 to 10, but wound up doing some really interesting business, helping a convenience store operator redeveloped and or develop gas station convenience stores in Oregon and Washington.
So, and I want to make sure we save a couple of minutes to talk about where you see things going. But when you talk about your career and your journey and these experiences, you mentioned the research and like how you do things. When you think about all these things, is there a through line that you realized about your talent, your proficiency, like who you are as a person that maybe you realize now that you didn't realize at the beginning?
Um, there's the
I mean, that's kind of a wide question. I know that's kind of wide, but like as you're saying these things, and that's one thing I love about having these conversations of being able to take chances, and even though they're hard things happen, but you grow from. Have you learned anything about yourself throughout all this?
that I am amazingly resilient and that I'm really good at hiding, what's actually going on in my brain. Because there were times when I just went, "Wow, this is so hard. I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to navigate this thing. I don't have, I have not experienced this particular thing. So what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to get up every day and I'm going to make phone calls and I'm going to continue talking to my pals that are some of whom are also trying to figure out what the heck's going on. But it's, yeah, there've been some very rugged episodes where I did not have an answer and getting up with a smile on my face and going out there and stirring it up, has been really my savior. And my wife has been an incredible partner through that process. So it's just don't give it up. I mean, I know what I can do, and I continue to do the things that I know how to do and like to do. So I always had that to fall back on. Markets do have to cooperate, but there was opportunity again where people that I had grown up in the business with looked at the Southern California landscape and said, "There's no more development here. We're done." And probably for this type of things we were doing, maybe there wasn't as much opportunity to build master plan industrial communities. But that building over there is going to come down and we're going to buy that thing and we're going to design something beautiful that's going to have much higher rental income opportunities. And we'll maybe hold that if we're lucky, sell it and make a profit and go do it again.
Being resilient and understanding that it will. I'm not putting words in your mouth, but the way I'm experiencing this, you understand, like, hey, there's going to be good times, bad times, but there's always going to be more times that happen. So just you'll figure it out. You gotta be resilient and
Yeah.
flexible.
I mean, you and I got families. They like
Yeah,
to eat
yeah,
and
that's
they're
right.
going to expensive schools. I mean, what the heck?
Yeah. So before we take off, where do you see real estate going? What's next in this industry? Like what are you excited about in this industry?
Well, as there continues to be innovation, solutions to shortages in our economy, some are going to be very difficult to bring to market. I mean, the whole data center push now is real and it's going to suck up a lot of money. And if artificial intelligence continues to be a factor in our lives, and I believe it will be. I think there will be great opportunities to take the knowledge and the relationships that we both developed and use those to the benefit of the clients that need that unartificial intelligent response analysis. People are going to go rent spaces using the internet. They're not going to need a broker for that, more than likely in 5 years. But selling somebody an investment project or taking their pride and joy and saying, okay, we're going to turn this greenhouse operation into 150 affordable houses, and it's going to rock. I think we're a long way away from having a machine give you that sort of feedback. Maybe not forever, but I think it's going to be a while.
All right. So thank you very much for being a guest. Before we take off, Peter, I want to say thank you for your time and everything that you've done. Like just being able to have these conversations over time and just just being a friend and being a colleague. So I appreciate the time. Any parting thoughts you want to give, like where people can find you, where they can, or of course Google. All you got to do is search commercial real estate San Diego.
Real estate San Diego. He'll find me, I think. Well, I'm with Kidder Matthews here in San Diego. Kidder is the largest independently owned private commercial real estate company west of the Rockies. We have 900 professionals at the service of our clients. It's a fantastic environment for me to work in because I get to work with people that are both younger and older, some with less experience and more experience that I can gain benefit from and hopefully add some value to. And it's just a fun place to do business. I'm so lucky to live in San Diego. Not everybody gets to do that. And I think just reach out to me anytime any of you have any question about commercial real estate. I may not have the answer, but Dustin will.
All right. Peter Quinn, thank you very much.
You bet, Dustin. Take care, buddy.